Are you ready?
Starting now?
Well, now you just messed it up, you knob. God, you know that the shit that we go through for this, huh?
I know. Fuckers better appreciate it. When we started, we were just like, yeah, we're just going to do this, man. You know, shoot our wad into the wind and see what happens. What's the title of this podcast again?
I don't know. I don't know. Something with a penis, I guess.
Right.
Our fucking faces are everywhere now.
Right.
You know, but
You're welcome, ladies.
Right. Popular with the ladies. Right. Oh, I'm not even going to apologize because hopefully it sounds fucking hilarious.
Yeah, totally. This is fucking explicit now.
The explicit button. Let me use my finger.
La, 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 la.
It is time for another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And that episode starts now. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And we have Gary with us. Anyone? SpongeBob? SpongeBob, anyone?
No.
Hey, you're no? Well, I know. You know who SpongeBob is, though, right?
I'm aware of the character, yes.
Okay.
Gary the snail.
Yeah, Gary's a snail, and as his pet, he's always like, Gary!
I know what you're referring to.
Well, thank you, Gary. I appreciate that. At least one of you has got my back tonight, right? That's why we brought a guest on, so I get somebody to, I don't know, back me up with my stupidity, right?
Right.
But yeah, so if anyone, again, I always say if anyone's paying attention, people don't care, don't give a fuck. But if you're listening, Gary was on with us in episode 81. If you haven't listened to episode 81 yet, turn this off, go back to 81, because Gary's not going to retell his story. He's just hanging out with us tonight. But,
Yeah.
So we're not going to go back through his story. He did a really nice job. Gary, I actually re-listened to your episode the other night while I was over 2 nights while I was making dinner and stuff like that. So if I can do it again and I find the time to do it, anyone can.
Okay, I'd like to point out 2 things here. I did not go back and listen to the episode, and I believe we're probably the only podcast that start off saying, turn this off and go listen to something else.
Well, we've done it
Good
before
point,
when we've
Mike.
had a guest. We've only had a couple of people on twice, but yeah, shut it off. You can come back to this episode, but yeah, go listen to Gary's episode
Well,
first.
they're gone now, so it doesn't matter.
Well, they'll know. See, it's a tease, Mike. It's in the biz. It's what we call a tease in the biz. In the podcast biz.
The biz of pod.
Right, yeah, the biz of the old pod. Well, but on top of that, we don't do anything like anyone else anyhow, and that's one of the things that makes us all cool and stuff.
Spotlight that.
Yeah,
Our uniqueness.
Right, yeah. Everyone just don't fucking listen to us. I don't know why you're here, but yeah, for anyone who stuck around past that, or who came back after listening to Gary's episode, hey, welcome back. Gary's with us tonight. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. We had talked about. Gary's been, it's kind of funny. I was thinking about. So, Gary, you know the story about how Mike came into our family. I mean, we invited him over for Easter one year, and he's been here ever since. Kind of like never left. Fed him, of course. I think that was the key, right, Mike? Feeding you
That
at
was
that
it.
point.
Yep. Feed me,
And then,
not keep showing back up.
Gary, I was thinking about it's kind of the same way. You emailed us, you came on the podcast, and then you pretty much never gone away. Which I don't mean that in a bad way, but so you've been kind of part of our podcast and one of our supporters, which we appreciate. The emails and the comments and all those sort of things. So, obviously, thank you for all that, but certainly thank you for wasting your time again and coming back on with us.
I don't think it's a waste of time.
Yeah, well, who
I
knows?
love you guys. You're part of my sobriety.
Well, we're
I look forward to listening to you every week.
Well, we're only 3 minutes and 17 seconds in, so we'll decide in a little bit, or you can decide if it was a waste of your time. How's that? But so Gary had texted me before and he said, so same format. He goes, do the reading and then we'll shoot the shit. And I'm like, well, it depends on how Mike feels, whether or not you want to do a reading tonight. I mean,
My
it's
feelings
just,
don't matter.
okay. So why don't we do a reading? Let's roll some good thoughts around in all three of our heads and then we can, all three of us talk about it. What do you think, Mike? Back to you.
Well, thanks, Bill. Sounds like a great idea.
Well, good.
And you know what? I'm actually mixing it up a little bit because this is from Keep It Simple. It was from this morning,
Oh,
and I thought it was a good one. So I thought I'd, share this one with us.
nice.
So May 17th out of Keep It Simple. If you're offered a seat on a rocket ship, don't ask what seat, just get on. That is Sheryl Sandberg. Apparently, she was CEO of Facebook at one point. All right. Spiritual growth is the greatest gift we can receive, and we earn it through taking risks. There is much risk involved in working the steps. There is the risk of admitting that we're out of control, the risk of turning our will and our lives over to a power greater than ourselves, the risk of letting go of character defects, the risks of making amends to people we have harmed, the risk of admitting our wrongs, the risk of telling our stories as we carry the message of hope. To grow spiritually, we need these adventures, these challenges, these risks. Prayer for the day. Higher power, help me to take the risks that I need in order to grow. Action for the day, because this one has pesky actions too. I will look at today as an adventure with my higher power. I will list the fears that I need to let go of.
Okay, so let's start off with that. Was today an adventure with your higher power?
um, there were adventurous moments in today. Yes,
Right.
definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. There's some adventurous moments in every day.
Yeah, there certainly is. But first of all, yeah, that is nice. I mean, I don't know, when did you start reading Keep It Simple?
This is my second go through, so like a year and a half ago or so.
Okay. And I'll be honest, I don't remember when I
That
started reading it, but probably I think I've been reading it for a handful of years. And I don't know where I came across it or what I replaced, it with or that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm glad you did because I mean that's another one. I like them all, but
well,
between
the reason I went to it this time, it's written or collaborated or compiled or whatever by the same people that did God Grant Me.
really,
Yeah.
huh? I don't know if that now that sounds familiar, but you probably said that before. So I don't know. Fuck, I can't remember. And that doesn't
Do you
surprise
remember
anyone.
reading that this morning?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, because I saw
Well, there you go.
the rocket ship thing, and then
Right.
just get on it. It reminded me of kind of like the whole concept of don't look a gift horse in the mouth type of thing. I mean you're
Right.
being given something, and yeah, just get on the fucking rocket. But I could see, and I thought about that this morning. I'm like, yeah, I'd be the guy being like, can I step in the window? Yeah, I
Yeah.
want
What
to see
seed am I
some
getting?
shit.
Right.
So Gary, do you, and I forget, I mean, I know you've got your meditation and stuff like that. Only reason I remember that is because I just listened to it again. But do
Mhm.
you do meditation readings in the morning? And if so, what do you read?
I don't have my books in front of me. Darn it! I know I just drew a
It's okay.
brain
It's
a
okay.
blank. I have some daily readers. I actually have not been doing them. I'm going to tell on myself a little bit, but
Hmm.
I haven't been doing them. I haven't had, unfortunately, in the mornings. I have had a tough time waking up, and so I make sure that I text people that are important to me in my recovery, and so that I'm held accountable. But I haven't been doing the readings. I When I do them, there's 6 different books that I do. And I don't think God Grant Me is one of them. I do as some Hazelton ones. Um, there's a meditation book. There's another one as a daily reader, and then there's some Alan on daily readers that I do.
Hmm.
That's
Um,
right. When you talked about, you
along,
did Drop the Rock too, didn't you? Do you still read that, or did you read it?
I don't
Just
read that on a daily basis, but I have read that a couple of times.
okay. Yeah, I paid for the audio book. God, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 months ago, and same thing. I was gonna buy the book, and I'm like, you know what? I'm doing enough driving, and there was an audiobook, so I just bought the audiobook and listened to it. And that's what Mike and I were talking about a couple months ago after I had done that. Kind of, I don't know, having a conversation on here again at some point with steps 6 and 7, because same thing, Mike. Those are what people consider like the forgotten steps, right? They're the ones they
Oh,
don't, kind of what they call
absolutely.
them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I mean, obviously they're hugely important. I enjoyed, the audiobook, and even though it's been probably only a month or so ago, or maybe even 2 months ago, definitely I should listen to that again. But yeah, so I mean, the morning readings, and well, and you've heard it before, but both of us read God Grant Me. We read the 24-hour book. We both read Keep It Simple. I added A Day at a Time. I don't know, again, 3-4 years ago, something like that. But they're short, they're short, sweet, basically all the same format, but same deal. 9 times out of 10, I don't remember what I read. but if Mike brings it up and it happens to oh boy, read
You're
one.
having a good evening.
You know what? It's been a hell of a week, and I spend all my days on the phone, the entire day on the phone,
Hmm.
and it was a rough week work wise, just with my basically my success. It was a slow week, and so I'm making a lot of phone calls, and I was just like, God damn. So clearly, I'm talking over myself, or talking, outside of myself, or whatever the deal is. But so if Mike brings it up and reads one, during an episode, then I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I did read that one this morning.
Yep.
So, but no, I like that one. I talked about, and I got to the point where I wrote down risk in steps, and then there was all the different things.
Mm-hmm.
What were all those? Do you still have your book there in front
Yeah,
of you?
well, no, I didn't get up and go anywhere. So
But I
yeah,
don't know. Sometimes you could just throw it. I don't know.
I,
Mike,
I
did you say that was A Day at a Time?
no, this one is Keep It Simple. It's
Okay.
a Hazelton book too, so it's God Grant Me. Yeah, I
Right.
Yeah.
mean, right. But let's see here. The steps. All right, so it goes through the risk of admitting we're out of control. Clearly, step one. The risk of turning our will and our lives over to power greater than ourselves. 2 and 3.
Hmm.
Risk of letting go of character defects. That would be 6 and 7. The risks of making amends to people we've harmed, 8 and 9. The risk of admitting our wrongs, hell, that's pretty much all of them. The risk of telling our stories and we carry the message of hope.
Right.
Yeah, so 12, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
But all I wrote down was risk in the steps. So I mean, that was kind of as you were reading it, I'm like, I can't write down all that stuff. But that's
Yep.
basically what it did, and it went through, in maybe even in a vague sense, sort of, all the steps. So, and
Mm-hmm.
there is, to begin with, I think all three of us can probably, agree on the fact that, I don't know if I walked into it saying, man, these steps are risky, but there was
Mm,
fear involved. That's for damn sure, right?
sure. Yeah, I mean it's taking a risk. It's doing things we've never done before.
Right.
Living a different way, man. Of course, yeah, it's risky, and it's we're drunks and junkies. We don't want to change, and we don't want to get out of our comfort zone. The whole point of getting loaded is to make ourselves comfortable. Um, right, but no, we can't. We have to take risks. I mean, Bo used to say it all the time. I mean, she said, my first year and a half of being sober, I was totally uncomfortable all the time. And I used to tell the guys when I do group, man, it's like, look, you have to get uncomfortable. It's okay. We all did, you know. Yeah, for me, definitely first year of being sober, I was uncomfortable a lot of the time. And
Right.
that's what I had to do because, again, the whole point of the way I lived my life before I got sober was trying to make myself as comfortable as I could all the fucking time, and that doesn't work. It doesn't. You have no growth, and you you end up being miserable. I like being uncomfortable once in a while. Also,
Right.
but you got to remember once you get through all that, today I'm very comfortable in my own skin and in my way of life, and yes, and the material stuff, could I could use a few more nicer things, but the things that I have I'm quite comfortable with.
Right.
So
Well, that
right.
was that was one of the things we had talked about a couple of different times. I know that Marty, when we were still at the Keating Center, actually in the sober living facility, seemed like every time that anyone, not just us, but you got comfortable doing one of the jobs or doing a duty or doing something like that, he'd switch it up,
Mm-hmm.
and he would do that all the time because he used to, I think he used to actually say that, you're getting comfortable, or I want you to get comfortable, or
Right.
all that stuff. And he was training us, again, to be human,
Mm-hmm.
because we weren't. But yeah, I mean, did you run into that too, Gary? I mean, with either people, and I'll just say forcing change, or being uncomfortable right away.
Well, I was uncomfortable coming into the first meeting. Talk about risk. You had to take a big
Right.
risk doing that. Just coming in the program is a risk.
Right.
And one of I heard that in the first year, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, pain is the touchstone of growth. So yes, I was very uncomfortable, especially that first year. The first 6 months were, what the hell? But like Mike just said, one of the biggest things this past year in particular is I've gotten to a point in my sobriety where I'm really comfortable in my skin, and very calm and serene.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's because I've taken a lot of risks over the past 6 years to do the work necessary to get to that point,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and to learn, how to like myself and how to take care of myself, and let go of a big part of this past year has been all about surrender, um, and letting go of the outcome, letting go of people pleasing, letting go of having to take care of everyone else and take care of myself instead.
Right.
Has been a big part of that. But it was a huge risk when I first came in, yes. And then I've continued to take risks, and the things that I think are risks, um, like coming on here. I'm learning how to use my voice, um, especially in my new position at work. It's been a challenge to speak up and say what I think. And it's nice to come on here and be able to speak and express my opinion, and to be okay with that.
Right.
Right.
Because growing up, that was something that was not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've gotten to a point in sobriety, which this is going to sound awful, but I just don't fucking care anymore.
That's
Sounds pretty damn good to me.
Well,
Yeah, and that's
but
not awful, because the getting to a point, it was probably, and it wasn't even from a sobriety standpoint per se. I mean, it wasn't, but probably about like a handful of years ago, maybe even longer ago than that. I thought the same thing. When it comes to like relationships and things like that. Not only with family, but I'm talking about with like a dating relationship or something like that. You wonder, why did this work out, or does this work out, or will this work out? And finally, I'm like, fuck it, man. I mean, I take care of myself, in the way that I want to keep myself healthy. I'm not perfect. I don't have perfect whatevers, from anything from top to bottom, head to toe, inside or out. None of me is perfect, but then again, who is, right? But I also got to the point where I'm like, you know what? Fuck them. If somebody doesn't like me, I don't give a fuck. I'll try to figure out why, see if it was something that I did to offend a person, because I don't want to do that.
Right.
I mean,
true.
it's fun being a dick every once in a while, because I mean, we talk about that all the time. It is fun,
Nope, you have to make
but I
amends.
don't I don't want to be an overt dick, just in a general sense to anyone or everyone, So, but it is. I mean, not caring about outside influences like that, it's a freedom. I mean, it's a huge amount of freedom, and there's growth in that too. I mean, there really is.
Yes, totally agree with that. It's big, huge freedom.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, right, like you alluded to, yes, we don't want to be that asshole that we were.
Hmm.
But with doing the next right thing, with that knowledge that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, that's where that freedom comes, where, right, if somebody doesn't like you, it's like, well, fuck, man, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Again, that comfortable in my skin, and because I'm doing the right thing, I don't have all that anxiety because I'm doing bad things. Right. That comes with it. I'm doing the right thing, so fuck you. If you don't like the fact that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, then get the fuck away from me.
Yep.
Right. Well, and even doing this, and I'm glad you brought that up, Gary, because it was, I don't know if it was to begin with Mike and I when we first started doing it, because it when we did it, we were literally on our phone, so it was almost the feeling. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but it was kind of like just a feeling like he and I were just having a private phone call, and
Right.
just happened to be recording it, and we kept that for the most part. We kept that mindset, and then every once in a while, we talk to the audience, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
So for everyone out there, we'll explain what we're talking about. But 9 times out of 10, I mean, yeah, I'm staring at a computer. I see I'm in a studio and all those sort of things, and I know that people are end up listening to it, but that was the whole point. It was, I don't know if I thought about it as much as a risk, but there was a real rawness to what we were talking about to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that the story that, and Mike brought it up when we were talking about regaining or getting a relationship back. And then, I mean, Mike, we're just talking, and all of a sudden Mike's like, "Well, you happen to be the one that's got the best story about that. Why don't you talk about that?" And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, "Well, fuck me." And I'm like, "Okay." And I did this like slow lead in, and then I explained it. I'm like, the reason I'm doing a slow lead in is because I'm going to talk to my daughter about this, and if she doesn't want to listen to it, I'm giving her time to turn this the fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything that she didn't know, but I didn't know if she wanted to listen to it. But the same thing is, Mike and I have decided that we talk about our part of the story. I've talked about my ex-wives. I've talked about my kids. But I won't tell my ex-wives stories. I won't tell my kids stories or their part in it, because it's not my place. And if a story is, I don't know, if a story would seem incomplete, without having their part, then I just don't fucking tell it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there was a when we were listening back to, I don't know, when I was listening back to some of them to begin with, I'm like, I can't believe we fucking talked about that, because we don't think about it. But even though we don't edit, and I mean, we're both very proud of that. We know that we have the ability at any point, if something is said, we can say, okay, that's got to drop. I can figure out an easy way to do it. I can cut it out. At this point, we're 117 episodes in, and we've never had to do that
Nope.
yet.
Right.
And I don't see it happening. The only way I would ever see it happening is if we had a guest that came on, started just talking shit, and then all of a sudden said, "You know what? You guys need to fucking delete that." And what
Mm-hmm.
I would do, I would end the studio, kick them the fuck out. We'd start a new one, and I wouldn't
Yeah.
even put it up.
It would be
Come
gone.
back.
Yeah, I'd be fine. You're done. But that's the other thing, is that we do, and I know Mike to begin with, no other podcast out there that's telling people to stop listening, but I'm sure there's got to be somebody out there. Well, I know there are. There's consultants and all these different things. People that, this is how you start a podcast. This is what you do. They'd probably cry or cringe at least if they listen to what we do. But fuck it doesn't matter. We're small. We're having a good time, and we're reaching, if nothing else, a core group of people, and that's enough, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Totally.
Well, and because it is recovery based, because we're based in the 12 steps and stuff, basically, and that's sort of the theme of this podcast.
It's got the word sober in it.
Right. It's the first word, right. It is 12-step work for us. It is certainly for me. And so
Right.
there's a level of honesty that has to come with that. And I think we live up to that most of the
Right.
time. I mean, clearly there are things that we don't talk about on here that happen in our lives or whatever. There's stuff going on in my life right now that I haven't brought up on here.
Right.
Maybe if we're doing this in a couple more years, I'll be able to go back and talk about it. But
Right.
right now, it's just not appropriate for the people involved, so I don't. But yeah, but as far as the recovery stuff goes, again, that level of honesty that has to be there built into it, because that's how we were taught to do this thing, is to be honest.
Right.
You're given a lead, man. Be honest, be brief, and be seated.
Right. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's where that comes from with us, is that inherent honesty that has to be there.
Yeah, the only thing that we go outside of is after 20 minutes, it's all bullshit. And I mean, we go, we go 3 times that. So, and it is, at least 3/4 of this is, Earth. 2/3 of this is bullshit
2/3.
anyhow, if not all of it's bullshit. So, we're understanding and going into it with the fact that this is all fucking bullshit anyhow, sprinkled in with a little bit of recovery,
Mm-hmm.
just
Well, if
to
you're not
just to make
honest
it
and open and don't share like that, then people aren't going to relate to it either.
Exactly.
right.
Same thing
Yeah.
in a
Right.
Then
meeting.
it's useless. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
then
part of
just
that risk is putting yourself out there.
right.
And it's been interesting that the more I do that, the more people actually respect and respond better.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you speak up and say what you think instead of trying to say what you think they want you to say, they respond 100% better. And it's there's so much in the program that is oxymorons, or I like to call it magic, but it's stuff that doesn't make sense. Like you said,
Uh-huh.
it's AA math that doesn't
Yep.
add up. And but it works. And as long as it works, then I just keep doing it.
And absolutely, and you were saying that, it's the response is 100% better. And you know what? Even when those responses are negative, it's still 100% better. It's like, okay, you know where you stand with these people. And that's what I want. I want to know where I stand. And if I hopefully it's positive and I'm helping them and they're helping me. But if not, I want to know that too. Cause you know what? I wasted decades of my life and I'm getting fucking old and I don't have the time or the energy to waste anymore.
Yes.
Right. Well, and there's people out there that want individuals to parrot back to them exactly how they act and feel and say and all those sort of things, but they're narcissists and I don't want to be around them. I mean, because I was a 100% a fucking narcissist, and I fully admitted that. I'm an egotist still, better than I was. Recovering egotist. But I'm a fucking egotist. I know it. More controlled, and I've got people like Mike and other people in my life that call me on my shit, so that helps. But people who just want to hear what they say, I have no desire to be around them because again, I was that guy, and I could see myself, and it not only makes me uncomfortable. I despise people like that because I hated that. Looking back, I'm not a fan of that person that I was at all.
Right.
So. But yeah, so that reading, of course, the first part, I just wrote "just get on," and of course, where my mind went the same way this morning, and just
Right.
leave that alone.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to be professional here. We have a guest, but no, anything else? Either one of you guys on the reading, or anything else that kind of stood out, or either made sense or more conversation.
Just that I'm grateful I took the risk.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And continue to take the risk, right?
It doesn't feel like risk anymore.
Right.
The work that I do to stay sober and to continue my serenity does not feel like work. I really enjoy doing it. There are, that's not to say that it's all, what do you call it? Strawberries and orgasms?
Right.
Yeah,
Rainbows
Heidi.
and unicorns. It's not. Some of it is work. And there's times that I have to do work that I don't necessarily want to do, but I know I need to do it. And I know on the other side of that, because I've been around long enough to know it's going to be a lot better than it was if I didn't do the work. So
absolutely. Right. And so
I'm
it's
not comfortable with sitting in my shit anymore. I'm not.
Right. And because we've proven to ourselves by doing the work, it's not risky. Like you said, it's not always easy and it's certainly not always comfortable, but it's not really a risk because it's been proven to us over and over again that if we do this shit, it will work. So it's not really a risk. It's just kind of a drag sometimes.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes it's not fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of pleasurable things in my life, outside of recovery that I'm like, fuck, I don't feel like going to do this. But then when you get involved in it, you enjoy yourself, you have fun, and all those sort of things. But in anything in recovery is the same way, and that's a good point that you say that about the risk because I don't really think about any part of recovery, like you said, being a risk or even being work. I just like all the shit that I do in the morning, the short set of prayers and the readings and whatever. It's 20 minutes that I know I have to do. Fucking Instagram and fucking Facebook, those things are work, but I'm doing them for this thing too, which is part of the recovery thing. So, but those are more work and more dreadful to me than than doing my readings, but it's all becomes habit anyhow. So it's not a bad thing.
Yep, over time.
Yeah,
Like I said,
exactly.
I enjoy, 95% of it I enjoy a lot.
Mhm.
And we don't have to do it alone either. So when I do
Right.
need to do the work, I have a sponsor. I've got other people in my network that I reach out to and say, help me with this. And I'm working through this. And how did you do this? So that I can figure out how to get that done. And
Right.
applying the steps over time, like the principal parts,
Mhm.
I've done that so many times. It's just become a habit. A lot of it has become a habit. And interestingly, like someone at work the other day, um, I can kind of guide them through like that path a little bit and not have to necessarily tell them I'm sober and go through the whole steps. But it's
Mhm.
kind of like, did you look at it? Have you looked at it like this? Or that is out of your control. You don't have any
Right.
control over that. And it's interesting to watch people like think about that aren't in the program. I found ways to talk about it without it being like, what the hell are you talking about? And that, to me, that just shows a maturity in that I'm actually incorporating this. I'm doing step 12 and incorporating
Mhm.
that into my life, which
Right.
makes it much
Absolutely.
better.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And maybe I've sent a picture of a couple pages of daily readers either too. So I'm like, hey, you might want to read this.
You might want to take a look at this. You might want
Usually
to
I
take a look
send
at
Ellen one
yourself.
though, but
Right.
So, Gary, you said that you had a couple of topics. Are there topics or things that you wanted to
sure,
go
there's
through
stuff
or
I
go
can
over?
bring up if you want.
Yeah,
Um,
whatever. I mean, it's again like yeah, because when Mike when he was texting me and saying kind of format thing, I'm like, yeah, you've listened long enough, and he's like, yeah, he goes, no, I get it. There is no real format. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. If Mike wants to do the reading again, not all about you, I get it. Thank you. And then I said anything from there. I'm like, let's whatever, man. Shoot your shit and take it as it comes. So yeah, whatever you
sure.
got, man.
Well, I appreciate you doing the reading, Mike, because I always enjoy that opening now.
Cool.
When I listen to you guys, I did think about y'all because 2 weeks ago I went to another retreat.
Nice.
A friend of mine that actually lives in Alabama that went to Winter Awakening had texted me and said, "Will you go to this one? It's called the Highlands Retreat. It's where we used to go at Winter Awakening, so it was weird being there when it was warm."
Hmm.
Um, but I didn't realize until like the week before because I was just fed up with everybody and everything, and I didn't. It was nice to go and be surrounded by recovery
Mhm.
and people that get it.
Right.
Right.
And I met some really cool people. The really cool part was that I wasn't afraid. Um,
Mhm.
and so I wasn't afraid to talk to people, and I met a whole bunch of people, and I talked to a lot of them. One of which I made a couple of friends there, and we've been in touch ever since. Even though he lives in Atlanta, but we kind of like clicked. And it's neat to have somebody reflect back to you that doesn't know your journey, what you're
Mhm.
like. And I actually sent him the podcast, and so his his response was, "You were angry and you swear." He's like, "You were so calm all weekend." I was like, "Well, I was at a retreat and it was
Right.
wonderful."
Uh-huh.
And that place up there is just amazing. I love the mountain. It's a beautiful place, and it was neat to be there when it's warm. Um, and we did a labyrinth walk, which was super cool. And it was just nice to be surrounded by recovery. The other
Mhm.
fun story is, and I'm sure my sponsor will listen to this and probably yell at me, but I got to make him turn red because he picked up his 4-year chip up
Oh,
there.
nice.
Nice.
The Wednesday prior was his 4 years. And he didn't know I had it with me. And so I volunteered to give out the chips. They do CMA meeting the first night, CMA
Mhm.
style meeting, and AA style the next night. So the chips are very similar. So when I got to, is anyone picking up 2 years? Anyone picking up 3 years? And right then he understood that I was going to give it out for everybody. And he just turned like 8 shades of red. And it was great. Um, so that was super nice. And we actually rode up there together. And that was something I wanted to ask you guys. Like, I know, Bill, you don't sponsor anybody. Mike, you've sponsored some people. I don't know
I
if
have.
that
Um,
person's still around.
I mean, I've sponsored, hell, I've probably sponsored a couple of dozen people. There is one that is still sober.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because he pretty much did what I did. He, he early on, he asked me questions and took a little bit of direction and stuff. And then he went and did the work. And so I'm still in touch with him. We certainly don't talk like on a daily basis or anything crazy like that. But no, he's off living his life, doing what he's supposed to do. He's still involved in the program, still does the work on a daily basis, and yeah, it's great. But again, I didn't do a whole hell of a lot. I was just kind of there early on, like I needed, and he went and did the work. Like I said, I've had a bunch of them. Had one recently, my most recent one. I worked with him pretty intensely for about a month. He disappeared, went back out, came crawling back in as we do, luckily. And he showed up at my home group and he was blowing some smoke and and said he said yeah he had gone back into the sober house that he was at before, which is near my home group, so a lot of those guys go there. And he said, yeah, well, then I'm transferring out to this other sober house out in Elyria. And I said, cool. Call me when you get there. Haven't heard from him since. So,
Yeah,
right.
So he's the one that I met when I was there, right? I did, because I remember you saying he was going out there because it was a family member or something
there
like
you
that
go.
that wasn't
Yeah.
doing okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
the thing is, I don't chase guys down. That's, that's the way I was taught, the guys that showed me how to do this, they said, they looked at me square in the eye and said, I don't want what you have. So,
It's an interesting way to
right.
put it.
Yeah, exactly. You want what I have, so do what I do. And that's the way I sponsor. So, I'm not chasing anybody down. You know where I'm at. I'm available all the time, always have been. Shit, my phone number and address are on Facebook.
right.
I do that for a reason. I am real fucking easy to find. Here
Mhm.
I am. You want what I have, come get it. I'm more than willing to give it to you, but you got to come get it.
Yeah, you got to be willing.
Yeah, right.
That's usually what I do. If someone asks me to sponsor them, I usually meet with them and go over that first, because that's what my sponsor did with me, both of them.
Right.
And so
And there was a couple of guys, maybe three, that I sponsored before I moved back to Wisconsin from Cleveland. Maybe four, I think. If I three for sure, four. But none of them stayed sober or were sober at the time I left. And one in particular, I've seen a number of times when I've come back over the last, again, 14 years. And, the person's got a year, they get 6 months, or they're back at the Keating Center, which, again, at least they made it back, But I had a guy, had two people approach me when I was secretarying a meeting when I was in Wisconsin for, I don't know, God, probably 3 or 4 years. And one guy in particular came up to me after I led at an open meeting. The same deal, I'm like, okay, here. We went upstairs. I ended up buying him a big book, and right off the bat, when I was saying, told him the meetings I went to, and he's like, well, he worked at he was like a sales rep at a furniture store. He's like, well, my late nights are this, and this is my schedule. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the deal. I said, here's what I'm here. Here's my phone number. I didn't ask him for his. And I'm like, here's where I am, and I saw him for like 2 weeks in a row and then didn't see him again, but it is a deal. And we had even our sponsor, Joe, who our grand sponsor is Bob, who is Joe's sponsor. Joe flipped in and out for a number of years, and he always tells a story in his lead about when he came back the last time, and Bob actually told him on the phone. He goes, huh? I don't think I can help you. You got to go find somebody else. He literally made Joe beg him to be a sponsor again,
Yep.
and humbled his ass. For the last time, humbled him. And our sponsor Joe he's got 3 or 5 years on us.
Yeah, something like that, right? I think
Somewhere in that area.
17. Okay.
Yeah, he's been around a bit. He's a really good dude. Same deal. he told, I don't remember if it was both of us or me or whatever it was at one point, probably both of us, we said we were talking about something in a meeting after I had been in Wisconsin for a handful of years, and he said, he goes, I'll always be your sponsor unless you tell me not to be. He goes, if you tell me to fuck off and you don't want me to be your sponsor anymore, fine. He goes, whether you're here, whether I'm in your life every day, he goes, I'm always going to be your sponsor unless you tell me not to be, which is really cool. And he's just, these are the type of guys that, we thankfully had the pleasure, and the pleasure, of being able to be raised around,
Absolutely. Oh, pure fucking luck, man.
Oh,
We had,
yeah.
guys that didn't take any shit, and because they knew, they knew, man, they were exactly like us, and they
Right.
knew what it took to stay sober. And, again, you want what I have, do what I do, and I don't want what you have because I had it and I fucking gave it up, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, that's just fucking perfect.
I'm
I
gonna
don't
borrow that.
remember. I mean, I'm sure somebody. I'm sure I was around
Like
when
that.
somebody said that. I just don't. I don't remember hearing that. But that's. I could easily picture and hear any one of them saying something like that. So
Right.
it's.
I'm pretty
yeah.
sure Bob is where that came from. Right.
I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah.
I don't want what you have.
Yeah, what's Bob got? 30 years now. He's
Yeah,
gotta
something
have,
like that,
30
right?
plus.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
Oh, he's.
Well, yeah, because he had 18 when we came in. So yeah.
Did he really? Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right after that summer, he had 18. Yeah, because he was blowing off that potato gun in the Keating Center parking lot.
Yeah. Yeah, fucking 18-year-old, 18 years sober. These guys are acting like a couple
blowing
of
shit
drunks.
up. Yep.
Yeah, like a couple of active drunks in the parking lot blowing off a potato gun. So yeah, it was pretty funny.
Except sober, you can actually aim it and not try and kill someone with it.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Or blow yourself up.
Well, Kathy's her ex Mark built one, and it was actually really cool when they lived on a small-ish lake, and we used to shoot that off to their porch at the lake and see how far it could go out. There was geese on there he never liked, so he'd shoot it at in front of them, just to scare them off of there and try to figure out put the fear of God in the geese so they wouldn't come back and shit all over the pier, but it never worked.
I was going to say, did that work? I doubt it.
No,
of course not.
They
it was
always
fucking
come
fun.
back.
I mean, I don't know how many fucking pounds of potatoes we'd go through, probably, I don't know, however many cases of beer, and then, 27 pounds of potatoes is a lot of fun. But it was good. So,
cool.
What do you think, Mike? Would this be a good point?
I believe it would be. It
All
would
right.
be a good point. Yeah, let's do it, man. All right, stay tuned for more Sober Not Mature right after these words from our sponsor.
Hey everyone, it's your friends at Sober Not Mature.
Hi there.
And, yes, it's both of your friends this time. Hi Mike, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Bill?
I am doing well, but we do have a purpose. We actually usually talk about our one website, but we actually have two websites now. So two websites in one. All right, so everyone knows we still have the podcast website that is www.SoberNotMature.com. And we just launched the store website, so we also have that. Do you know what the website address is on that one, Mike?
Of course I don't.
It's pretty easy, Mike. It's www.SoberNotMatureShop.com. So, but from the podcast website, you can still hit the store link and get into the web store, or you can access it from our Instagram page through the highlights. We've been posting quite a bit about it, and we'll continue to do that. But do you know what's on the second website, Mike?
Well, there's a store. There are products that you can purchase for you and your loved ones.
Well, Mike, do we still have merchandise?
We have merchandise. Well, we got T-shirts and coffee mugs and all kinds of crap.
And one of the coolest parts, we also do have all the recovery books from Hazelden, which is kind of a big deal.
That is a big deal.
Yeah, at least for us. So all the books that we read, God Grant Me, 24 Hours, the Big Book, the 12 and 12, all of those books are available for sale on our website. And once again, that store website is www.sober.
Trying to help, man.
I know you are. You're not helping, though. Okay, now I got to say www.SoberNotMatureShop.com.
.com.
SoberNotMature.com. Visit that today, or visit the podcast website, which is, again, the podcast website. So
www.SoberNotMature.com.
did you just say sober but not mature?
Yeah, sure. Write that down.
Yeah, like fucking mush mouth or something. All right, everyone. You've suffered enough with this, and we'll get back to what we were talking about previously. So visit the websites, though. All right, everyone. Welcome back. And yeah, smooth.
Yeah,
Smooth.
sure. Why not?
After this word from our sponsor. But no, so anyhow, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Gary. It just seemed like
That's
a good
okay.
point in looking at the time. So the retreat, and you wrote up with your sponsor. I think I interrupted, or we interrupted
Yeah, I
part of that
wrote up
story.
with a sponsee.
Responsee,
So,
I'm sorry.
I was
Yes.
just going to say that the cool part about sponsoring is your sponsees can keep you sober.
Mm-hmm.
And I get almost as much or more out of it than they do. And I never understood that when my sponsor used to tell me that until I started sponsoring people.
Mm-hmm.
And then I called them and I was like, oh, I get this. And it's a totally different way to do the steps. And I just had one finish. She just finished all 12 steps. And so she's in that spot where she is, she wants to help everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, you got to let them come to you.
Right.
You got to have willingness. Like you cannot be more sober than they are. You cannot work their program for them. I've tried that. Like, just trust me.
Mm-hmm.
She's like,
all right. Well,
so
and
bad.
I've got to throw in here. Okay, she's been through the steps the first time. She better not be done with them.
She's not.
I knew that was coming.
She's not.
I hate that. I hate when I hear it from the podium. I hate when anybody says it. It just bothers the hell out of me because we never finish. The way we were taught, we do 4, 5, and 8 to the best of our ability.
Mhm.
We never have to do them again. But the rest of the steps, we got to work every day, one day at a time for the rest of our lives. Okay, I'm
Right.
I
done.
think I've told more than 10 people that.
Good.
I listened to this podcast, and this very smart man says the following.
I don't know about that.
See, now that's a good opportunity to say he's stolen some wonderful information.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
and we're able to parrot it off to other people.
That's
and,
right. Yeah.
Make it appear that it's our own, but we never take credit for it. That's for damn sure.
Right. Yep.
I always give you guys credit for what you say.
And what I say, trust me, nothing original because everything that's original out of
Mine's
this head's
not original
fucked up.
either. We just carry the message on to the next person.
Right.
Do it to the best of our ability. So, but I know that
Well,
that's
it was
a big
funny
part
too,
of my
'cause I'm
recovery is
sure,
having
well,
sponsees. Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? No, that's fine. And because I heard a little bit of almost a weirdness. You guys hear any weirdness in the audio or no?
Nope. Not on my end.
I haven't.
Nope.
Okay, because I'm not sure if now I feel like we might be delayed a little bit. So
I believe we
which
are.
is going to be
You
weird. 'Cause of
glitch,
course
glitch.
Hang on one second here. Let me try one thing. So look at this, Gary. You get to be part of this whole thing. I'm going to try to pause our uploads and see if that helps. Give me one second.
Okay. I'm not experiencing
was
a
weird,
delay, but
Yeah, I think you are because you answered me a little bit delayed, but that's okay. I'm just doing a couple of things here real quick. But okay, well, let's give that a whirl. We're on. Everyone's still there?
I
Yep.
am.
Okay, I think that might have helped. So all that I did, Gary, just so you know at the end, which you're going to stick around after we're done anyhow, but it'll just take a couple of minutes for the recordings to load up, so
That's
it's not
fine.
a big deal. But yeah, and the thing of it is, I never had. I wasn't trying to shy away from sponsoring people, but to begin with, I remember I had one guy ask me, and to begin with, it was a fear thing. I'm like, I didn't feel like I was ready. I was probably like a year and a half sober, I think at the time, maybe even a year and a couple of months, whatever it was. But then I think if it wasn't Mike, if it wasn't you and I, it was you and somebody else, or me and somebody else that talked about it, and they're like, what do you got to lose, man? Just try to help the guy out if nothing else, and
Right.
don't put a name on it, don't put a label on it, and,
Mhm.
and it was cool, it was, but it was a fear,
Oh,
but
it's scary as crap, the first one.
oh,
Sure.
it is, but the same thing, getting getting up and leading, going to a meeting,
Yep.
getting involved at a meeting, sponsoring, doing this. I mean, all of this is, you know, both of us have come into this podcast, fucking tired and long weeks and all those sort of things, and have never walked away from this, feeling worse. It's we get a feeling of worth after we're done. Same thing as a meeting or leading or anything like that. And that goes back to what you were saying, Gary, is the fact that it does as much, if not more, for us as it does for the person or people
That we're
we're
helping.
attempting to help. It's great.
Again, more risks. Risks and the
Right.
rewards all comes back.
Well, and that's the other thing too, the fear of well, will this person drink again? Will they go out? Am I going to do a good enough job? That's not the job of being a sponsor.
Not
It's
up
to
to
do the
me.
best. Yeah, doing the best of your ability, and the person chooses to. Mike, you said it perfectly about the guy that you're talking about to begin with. Is that you gave him some suggestions, you were there, and he went out and he did the work. And
Mhm.
that's what it takes. So.
Yeah.
I always
Yeah.
tell them that we can't break them any worse than they've already done to themselves.
I
Like,
tell
think about
myself
what you
that.
did before you came in. They're like,
Right.
Right.
oh, like, yeah. I'm like, you can't break them any worse. If anything, you're going to help them.
Well,
Exactly.
again, and it comes down to the control thing too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to get them sober, we're not going to get them drunk, and we're not going to break them
And-
anymore. They can break themselves more. We understand that, but yes, we're not going to break them more. If nothing else, we're going to plant a seed. And
Right.
if they move, they could be across the country, across the world, and that seed we planted might grow, and we'll never know. And that's okay too, because it's not about me. It's about just passing this shit along, man, spreading the word, spreading the good news. There is a solution.
There
Right.
is.
Yeah,
So,
right.
question, Gary, because you said she.
Yes.
Is there, and because Mike and I had talked about this, and it was based on, I mean, well, we've talked about it probably outside of it, but I listened to a podcast where there was a male sponsor, female sponsee type of thing. Is there any type of, because I mean, the general consensus always is guys with guys, women with women type of thing. Is
Mhm.
there any type of where, well, clearly not, but is there any type of, I don't know, stigma or mindset of how that sponsor and sponsee relationship should be, men, women, and that sort of thing?
Well, as a gay male, I kind of break that mold a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
so this is what was interesting. She, not to tell her story, but I don't think she would mind. She did rehab in Charlotte, and the lady that ran the rehab center here would bring a group of girls to my home group meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how we met. And I told my story, and she came up to me afterwards and asked me to sponsor her. And at that point, I wasn't ready to sponsor people. Like, I just, and she was in rehab, and I'm in my head, I was doing what my partner calls a Gary-O. So the worst case scenario is like, I'm not gonna be able to get there, and I don't know how I'm gonna see her, and how am I gonna, how are you gonna call me? And it just was way too much. So I was like, that's fine. I'll give you my number. We can stay in touch. And we did. So when she got out of rehab, she moved. I don't remember where she moved to, but I know where she lives now. And it's a couple hours from Charlotte. And she stayed sober, and we contacted each other every so often, once a weekish, just texting.
Right.
And then I lost touch with her, and then she called me. This is probably 8 months ago, 9 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and she just was miserable. And she's like, I don't know who else to contact. And
Mm.
she hadn't gone to any meetings. She didn't have anybody in her sober network. I mean, she stayed sober.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like, I just don't know what to do. And so we talked every night on the phone for like a week. And she finally said, will you sponsor me? And I said,
Mm-hmm.
well, let me ask. So
Right.
then, my first thought's not always my best.
Right.
So I called my sponsor, and I called my grand sponsor, and we talked about it. And so we laid some basic ground rules. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she has a fiance, so there's not, I'm not interested in having anything but a sponsorship with her.
Sure.
And I
Right.
don't see her really in person.
Mm-hmm.
I brought her to Winter Awakening, and
Nice.
that was cool. And that opened her up into like, there's all these people out there in recovery. And I was like, yeah, I know you live in a small town and your your home group is like 4 or 5 people,
Mm,
but there's a huge, huge world of sober people out there that you
right.
can contact, and they don't have to be in your backyard.
Right.
And so we decided to work together, and then I started sending her. Yeah, we talk on the phone once a week, and that's how we went through the steps. So I sent her worksheets, and she did the work, just like you said.
Right.
She really did the work. It
Mm,
was wonderful,
Well,
and
and that's
she's
why I
so
asked the
much better now.
question because I mean, so either way though, you had that conversation with your sponsor and grand
Mm-hmm.
sponsor, and I'll be honest with you, there's this again this. And I don't know, good, bad, or indifferent. We can think about it, talk about it a hundred different ways, but there is a black and whiteness to to the AA program and the Big Book, and the quote unquote rules and all those sort of things,
mm-hmm.
which don't necessarily. And again, even though these are suggestions, there's ways that people look at them. And we have friends that are gay. We have lesbian friends that are sponsored by women or men or that sort of thing. I don't know that we saw, and I could be wrong, Mike, but I don't know that we saw a lot of cross sponsoring like that in Cleveland.
Right.
Um, I don't
Typically,
have
you
an issue
don't,
with it.
and I
Well, and
wouldn't
I
recommend it either. I
Exactly.
well,
could see where
right,
it would cross lines, and
sure,
one of the things that I did talk to her about, I said, you need to find one or two or more women in
Mm-hmm.
recovery that you can develop a relationship with. So if something comes up where I don't understand what you're going through because I'm not a female, you have
Right.
right,
someone else to go to and say, this is what's going on with me. What did you do?
Mm-hmm.
And so and we haven't run into that yet. And I just keep it sponsor sponsee kind of thing, and
Sure.
it's worked. And
Yeah.
right,
everyone I've
Absolutely.
worked with, I'm like, let's try this. If it doesn't work, no harm, no foul. Like I won't.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want me to sponsor you anymore, just like your sponsor said, tell me. So
Right.
I won't lose sleep over it. I promise you. We can still be friends. It's
Right.
all good.
I'll still stay sober.
Yeah.
Right.
right,
I didn't in the beginning. The first few that I had one ghost me, and I was really, really pissed. But
Hmm.
it's okay. He's still sober, so. And
Well,
I
good.
learned to get over resentment that way. I mean, that's how we learn. So, but I was not happy, and that's just how we learn. So, I hope that answers
right.
your question. It
Yeah, it does.
No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I really had to think long and hard about it and I talked to her about it. I said,
Mm-hmm.
these are my reservations of doing this, but if you want to try it, we will. And she's just been amazing. And
Cool.
she's a big part of my sobriety, and I love her dearly, but
Mm-hmm.
well,
in
good.
sort of a sponsor sponsee way,
Sure. Absolutely.
not
That was a
anything
human
else.
being. Right.
Right,
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And I mean, the general rule of thumb is guys with guys, girls with girls. And I mean, for a lot of us, it was for me. I mean, my deepest relationships with people were with women,
hmm
and a lot of women don't have, especially us. They don't have those relationships with other women.
Mm-hmm.
Most alcoholic women and drug addict women don't like other women because they're competition and all that shit. No, seriously, and it's
Yeah,
the same
no.
right,
with guys. I mean, it was for me. I mean, I kind of walk that line the other side of it. I always have. I mean, women were the things in my life, and women were the ones that I used and that I took advantage of, and all of that. Um, Same with women with guys, in this thing. So it's again talking about risks. It was a risk for me to open up to another man. It was a risk,
right,
it's a risk for a
Mm-hmm.
woman to open up to another woman and be able to trust them. And, you know, that was a huge part of it for me. Building actual relationships with other men. That was not how I lived my life before. I built relationships with women so that I could use them. Um,
True.
yeah, so yes, and it's the sexual component and stuff, and God knows, man, early in recovery, we're all fucking raw nerves because we've taken the substances away, and a real quick fix to not actually put the substance in, but get those endorphins and that dopamine going in your head is to have sex.
Yep.
right,
So right, that's kind of why it's suggested that you stick with your own kind, whatever the hell that is, right?
right,
To work through these things. And like you said, Gary, because you have that experience, you can't relate to a woman on a female level because you're not. Right. I
Yeah,
can't
I'm
relate
not.
to. Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. I can't relate. I mean, it would be much easier for me in my early recovery to get a female sponsor because I know how to deal with women. I can't manipulate men the way.
Well, you
Right.
can.
Well, yeah. I've got, you know what, man? I've said this for a long time. If I can't, I was born a heterosexual, right?
Uh-huh.
If I could have, because men are Jesus Christ, man, I could have gotten so much dope and so much money from men. I hung out in the bars, man. I was there. There were plenty of times in my life where I, got free drinks from gay guys.
Mhm.
I couldn't go all the way. If I could have gone all the way, I'd be dead. Right.
Never know. But yes, I've had people tell me that what I'm doing, I haven't had them come out and say it's wrong. But I've had people like, "Are you sure that that's a
Right.
good
Give
thing?"
me the side eye.
And
Right.
I'm like, "Well, and it works, and it's
It
working for
works.
us, and it's working
Exactly.
for her, and
Yeah.
I'm not
She's
harming
staying
anybody."
sober.
So
Yes.
yeah,
You make it exactly. It's working. Shut the fuck up.
and
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
and Gary, thank you for going into that, because of the fact that you brought it up. I wanted to talk about it because I I think we've gotten to know you well enough where everything you said, I kind of assumed that you would have. I know you wouldn't have done it without talking to people. That much I knew. But I'm glad you brought it up, because it's an out of the norm circumstance. But to Mike's point, it's working. Just shut the fuck up. If somebody looks at you side eyed, and I asked for more information because I didn't know how things were, didn't know how things would work, and on top of that too. So, you get somebody that just, and again, I fucking hate headline people. I don't like people that read a headline or listen to a sound clip and then blow it out. And then I figured, that's the first thing I thought of. Like, somebody heard that he quote unquote is sponsoring a woman. So I'm like, nah, let's fucking talk about this.
Sure.
Because you get somebody talking about whatever and this and that. And I'm like, it's. I was curious myself, but thank you, obviously for bringing it, or for going into more detail. I'm glad you
Yeah.
did. It's
Definitely.
helpful. It's helpful.
and I
Again,
also
being
had
raw.
one like you, Mike. That well, actually, I've sponsored him. We always get to step 4, and then he goes out, and then he
Yeah, it's
came
the tough
back,
one.
and I was like, "We'll try this one more time," and we didn't even make it to 4 second time. And I haven't heard from him.
Right.
And I wish him the best. And I'm here
Of
when
course.
he's had enough.
Right.
Actually, the other day I almost thought about that. I had a little, what I call a God shot. Like I should text him. Like, have you had enough yet? We're here. But I'm not going to sponsor him if he comes back. I will find him somebody. And I've already talked to several people in my network. But his DOC is mess, so I don't necessarily relate to that. And obviously, I'm going to tell him. But he also wanted the second time. He's kind of, every once in a while they reach out, like whatever, and he wants someone to feel sorry for him. I'm like, dude, you know how to do this. You did it twice, and then you don't hear from him.
Right.
I'm like, sorry. But that could save his life too. I mean, I know it sounds cold. When I first came in, though, I was like, how do you treat someone like that? And then over time, when you work with people, I'm like, you want what I got? I'm here.
Right.
I'm not going to chase you down. I can't be sober for you. I can tell you what I do, but...
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, the big book says we can't go drag people off bar stools.
And I read that to them. I read that to my sponsee.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah.
I'm not chasing anybody. Come chase me, please. I'm right here. I want to give you this.
That's right.
Yeah.
Find someone that has what you want. I
what
got
they
what
do.
I wanted because my sponsor is very serene and he's very even keeled and he thinks about things and he's I wouldn't say calculated, but he's just very even keeled and calm. And he's like that at a meeting. And I was like, I want that.
Yeah. Right.
And I went and said to him, I want to learn how to be calm. Now I am, in general.
Nice. Right.
I still can go off the deep end sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
We all can.
Exactly.
Well, that's just called being human, you know. I mean, we
Well,
can just
yeah.
because we're sober. Actually, we become, I think, you become more human. Obviously, once you get sober,
Mm-hmm.
but that it's kind of funny when you said that. And I was going to ask you, but you made it clear that obviously you make somebody comes back in, they start at one. I know other people that have tried to skip and they're like, well, I got the four before, and I had that
Yep.
again. This
Mm-mm.
one guy that I
Start
sponsored
over.
when he came back in and. I made him start with the first step, and he pushed back on it, and I'm just
Mm.
like, he goes, I've already done this, and I'm like, well, clearly you didn't get it, or you wouldn't have went back out. And he's, what are you fucking talking about? I'm like, think about it. I said, so I'm like, okay, so do this, and this was always my quote unquote assignment for people. I said, there wasn't a right answer. I didn't give a fuck what they wrote down. I really didn't. But I said, take step one and just write down what it means to you. That's all I would do. Is tell them
Mm-hmm.
that because
Mm-hmm.
it would get people to think about it. Whether they wrote one line, this one dude wrote like 4 pages. And I'm reading it through. I'm like, oh, this is really good stuff. And in my head, I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ.
What a load of shit.
Yeah, what a load of shit. But it's the work. It's going through the process. It's actually, I got them to actually think and do what I didn't understand, that these things, you can work these things, you can make them a part of. You got to think and figure out, what does it mean to me? How does this become part of my life, until it just becomes part of your life. But yeah, he's the one that our buddy our buddy Ben, he and I are sitting in a meeting one night, and he's like, so have you heard from so and so, the guy? And I said, no. I said, not for a couple of days. I said, last time I texted him was Tuesday, and I said I didn't hear back, so I'm like, I don't know where he is. And he said, well, he asked me to be a sponsor, and I'm like, really? So what happened was he didn't like the fact that I was telling him to read the 24-hour book every morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And then obviously we started back at step one. So yeah, he went to our friend Ben
Mm-hmm.
and asked him to be a sponsor. And Ben's like, you got to talk to Bill first. He goes, that he won't have a problem with it. If you guys aren't clicking, he's he you don't have an issue with it. But he goes, you got to talk to him. And apparently the guy told me, he goes, yeah, he goes, he's always fine with it or something like that. I'm like, he fucking talk to me.
Mm-mm.
And I'm like, that's just fucking chicken shit. It didn't make me mad. I just laughed. I'm like, have fun, Ben. Have a fucking great time. you know and it is what it is. It's the our other buddy Daryl, who passed away. I remember him getting all pissed off. It was a Dan's big book meeting, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like this and this, and he's talking about step one and whatever. And Dan, our buddy Dan, just said to him, he goes, you can go find, go interview or talk to or look for as many sponsors as you want. He goes, you'll find one that will agree with you. But he said, what you're saying is wrong. It was just, Daryl's all fucking pissed off, and Daryl's a big fucking dude. He's a firefighter we always talk
Right.
about. Fucking mean ass looking fucking dude. A teddy bear, but still. But he admittedly, we talked about it on here. He couldn't grasp, that first step, and it was
Mm-hmm.
literally the death of him, which is a shame because
Yeah.
we're all good people when when we're doing this thing the right way. But yeah, this thing killed him, So
It's the only one we need
it's
to do 100%.
Thank you.
Yes.
what's that?
It's the only step you have to do 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
It
The
is.
rest
Yep.
of them
Yeah.
we work at. But number
Yeah,
one, you
right.
got to
Right.
do 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to. Yeah, it's the one we have to do perfectly, man. We have absolutely no power over the substance, and we can't manage our own lives. We need these
Nope.
principles to manage our lives and these ideas. Otherwise, we're fucked. I know
Cannot
I
have
am.
just one.
But wait, but what if? And what if I? But this.
Yes, and I still want to know what the fuck natural wine is.
What the hell is
Right.
that?
I don't
It's
know.
in
It's
the
in the
big
damn
book.
big book when they're talking about switching stuff up. Just drinking beer, just drinking natural wines. It's in the damn big book. I don't know what
Isn't
a
it?
natural wine
Huh.
is,
Isn't that
as
chapter?
opposed to an unnatural wine.
Yeah.
Well,
But
I mean, that's like Thunderbird or Night Train. That's an unnatural wine.
right.
Wow.
but yeah, whatever chapter goes through all the links we used to go to, to try to,
Yep.
basically prove that we weren't alcoholic,
I
and
tried
then
all
yeah,
that
drinking.
stuff, but I don't remember the natural wine being in there.
Yeah, natural wines, and yeah, Mike brings
Natural
that up
wine,
every once in
man.
a while, and it is kind of funny because yeah, what the fuck, man? But yeah, trying to find the wiggle room, but yeah, there is. I think we all agree, right? No wiggle room in step one, correct?
Nope.
No, not at all.
Not a bit of it. So that was that. We went off on a nice tangent there. I like that. That was fun. So, but I think the reason I kind of brought that up again is that did we interrupt you? I know you were talking about sponsorship and the sponsee. Did we interrupt your
You did not.
thing again, Gary?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Um, the one of the other things that has come up for me, especially this year. So I've been sober for 6 years,
Mhm.
and in early sobriety, there was this guy. He was a great speaker, and he was talking about, I wear my sobriety like a loose scarf, and I'm to the point now where I can go anywhere in this world and be in any situation, and I know that I'm okay as long as I'm
Mhm.
spiritually fit. I have a reason to be there, and
Mhm.
I've been accountable. And it, like, I kind of got that, but I this past year in particular, I really get that. Like, I'm comfortable in the world, and
Mhm.
my life has gotten busy, and I've seen now where it would be really easy at this point to like back away from the program,
Mm.
not on purpose, just
Mhm.
your life gets busy, you start doing stuff, and I go to yoga and I go to dinner, and I've got other things going on. I have this going on because tonight's typically my home group meeting, but
Ah.
this is important to me as well. And I allow myself that if I need to do something else, whether it's recovery related or not, because it's all recovery related, basically, I'm not
Right.
going to go out and drink. Um, I don't go to a meeting, but I also find that I don't necessarily need as many meetings as I used to.
Mhm.
And it's been weird to find that balance. But I also, I catch myself like, I haven't been to a meeting in a week. And then that little voice in the back's like, yeah, and you don't have to go back. I'm like, oh, yes, I
Uh-huh.
do. Because I start getting irritable around the edges. Like, I can tell when I haven't been. And like what I wrote down with sobriety needs that change over time, and so it's always finding that balance and like moving things around, but also as I mature in my sobriety, like you said, as you get older, like I don't have time for this or that or something else. Like I'm really
Mhm.
picky about the meetings I go to. I want them to be good quality, not that
Mhm.
there's bad quality meetings, but stuff
Oh,
that
there is.
aligns with
There
what I'm
are.
doing
Yeah, there
now
are.
is how I would say that. But yeah, I've been to some. I don't know if I've ever been to an awful meeting. I've only been to one meeting where I walked out and I felt worse than when I walked in. It's because I didn't share.
Mm.
That was on me, and the meeting was
Mm.
really, really weird. Like the way they did it was really, really different than I was used to, and it was early sobriety, and I was like, "What the fuck is this shit?" So it was weird. It was a weird meeting, and I didn't feel comfortable. And when I left, I felt worse. And
Huh.
I called somebody, and they were like, "Did you share how you feel?" I'm like, "No." They're like, "Find yourself a meeting or call someone and tell them."
Right.
And I did. And then, well,
Mhm.
I sat in it for a while, and then I went to a meeting and shared. And then it magically went away. I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Um, but I just wondered, because you guys have 14 years, have you experienced that? Does it change? Does it? I mean, obviously, I went to a meeting. I went to my meditation meeting Wednesday because I led
Mhm.
the meditation, which is scary as fuck to do, but I do it. And they love it.
Right.
Like they always come up afterwards, like, "We love it when you lead these meditations." I'm like, I have no clue what I'm doing. I just do it. I mean, I kind of have a clue
Right.
because I've meditated for a long time, but
Mhm.
and I don't use a script anymore. I just kind of say a prayer and do it.
Right.
Um, so it's
But
really
yeah,
weird,
go
but
ahead, Mike. Go ahead first. I mean, I know we both got our opinions on that.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I've said it on here plenty of times. I got a one meeting a week now. I haven't been to a
for
meeting
service.
outside of my home group. Right, yeah, to be of service. I don't need to go to a meeting. I don't need to sit there and, it's early in sobriety. Clearly, I needed to go to meetings. I needed to be around those people and hear what they had to say. Absolutely. I kind of don't anymore, and that's okay. That's not my role in this anymore. I'm not a newcomer anymore. I know stay new and all that, but I'm not. I'm kind of definitely in my home group. I mean, I'm not. I don't have the most sobriety there, but I've been there the longest of anybody who's regularly shows up. I've been at that meeting longer than anybody else. So I'm kind of the old guard now, which is kind of nice, you know?
Old timer.
Yeah, getting there, getting there.
Mhm.
And yes, I don't need to go to, I was just saying this to somebody the other day. I just met a guy, actually through work. He works at one of the rail yards, and he's got the circled triangle on the back of his car. And I noticed it the other day, and so I brought it up. I said, "Oh shit, man, you're a friend of Bill W's?" He said, "Yeah." He's like, "But I haven't been to a meeting in like a while." And I said, "Man, you know what? Are you sober?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Are you good?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, shit, man, we didn't get sober to stay in church basements. We
Mhm.
didn't. I didn't. I don't like church basements. I don't like church upstairs at all, but you know, but yes, I go. I go once a week to be of service, to be a part of, to continue the thing. That's early on, man. I want the hand of AA to be there, and for that, I am responsible. Um,
Mhm.
you
They
know,
say that out loud every time they say it too.
right.
Right.
Exactly. I don't need a meeting. I'm grateful they're there. If I get to a point where I need a meeting or I'm going to drink, I'm doing some real wrong shit and I need to look at some other stuff. Going and sitting in that church basement is not going to help me. I need to do some hardcore work. Thankfully, I do the maintenance every day, so I don't get to that point. Meetings are great. The fellowship is great, but it's a very small part of Alcoholics Anonymous. Like Bob used to always say, man, it's an inside job. I got to do the work internally. And if I do that, I get the results.
Right.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean for me, and I mean we were just talking about this last week or the week before again. I think it got brought up, Mike. But I don't go to meetings on a regular basis at all, and I haven't since basically when the pandemic started, and then I hit online meetings, and then I started hitting podcasts, and then this is quite honestly, this is my one meeting a week, and then I do the work, all the way throughout the week, and the things that we always talk about. But when I go back to Ohio, I look forward to going to at least one meeting, but if we don't, it bums me out because I didn't get to see my friends.
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily need to hear the same story again. Sometimes it's somebody we know that's leading, and that's cool. Just seeing that person and being there to support them. But if it's anything that I can do, I go to Keating Center events, to work. I don't go to enjoy the event necessarily. I do, but when I go there, I expect to be put to work. And if there's work to do at a meeting that I go to, I'll help out. Usually there isn't, but I would. But here's the other thing though, and I was just thinking about it while Mike was talking. When I was in Florida, it used to be when I traveled, I would go to more meetings because even if I was in a safe place, it was just kind of like I was out of my element, and a meeting kind of grounded me, and I did it almost unknowingly. But I was in Florida at the end of 2016, going into 17, so I would have been no, beginning of 2017, so I would have been six and a half, coming up on 7 years sober. I was in Florida for 3 weeks. I was with my cousins in a very safe place. They know my deal. They're very supportive, no issues at all. But I went to a meeting every single day for 3 weeks when I was down there, with the exception of three. And that's only because Kathy came into town. I think it was the day I got there and then the day I left. But I went to more meetings down there than I used to go to locally. And sometimes I'll go to a meeting when I travel because I think it's fun to see, how meetings are set up, if they're
It
different,
is.
whatever, just meet new people. But other than that, the same thing is I've got all the freedom in the world right now to drink if I want to. I've got all the freedom in the world to do whatever the fuck I want, and nobody would know until they found out.
Mhm.
But like I said, when I first got sober, when I first started to have that freedom, I had the money, I had the ability, but I didn't have the desire to drink. And the first time I realized that, I was probably about 6 months sober, and it was fucking wonderful. And I mean, I've been at that point for a while, but that comfort zone and everything that guy said, that speaker you were talking about, every piece of that's out of the big book, which is perfect
Hmm.
because that is wearing your life like a loose garment. Being in a place for an event, not the party, just for the event. Being spiritually fit, all those sort of things. If I don't feel comfortable someplace, I don't go. Or if I become uncomfortable, I leave.
And leave, yeah.
And I have that. Thankfully, I've developed that ability, and it's not even in my brain. It's within me. I get this unnerving feeling, and then I'm like, okay, something's weird. I got to go. But yeah, I mean, I still enjoy meetings. I like going. But it's for the probably the fellowship side of things, or if I have the opportunity to be of service, I think would be the easiest way to put it.
Cool. Well, I was curious. It's just been, like I said, this year, I just been very, very calm, serene. Like things don't shake me. I don't, and some stuff gets under my skin, but a lot of times that's stuff that I need to work on. But stuff that normally would doesn't,
Right,
and it's just, that's the way it is. And it's nice. I mean, it's really, really, really
Yes.
nice. But it's different. It feels good, but it's different. And I tell people,
Right. And different
they're
is
like, "You don't drink."
strange,
I said,
and
"Well, I choose
we're
not
not
to
used
drink
to it.
because I prefer to be sober. Like, I really enjoy life sober. Like, I
right,
don't. A drink's not going to make this any better. It's going to make it worse. But and I don't. That's not. If I get upset, that's not my first go to now. That's not my first thought. For probably the first half of my sobriety, that was my first thought. Anytime I got upset, it was like, oh, I could drink. Like, and then you
right.
go through the rest of the things that we learn about, so you don't. But that's not my first thought now. Um, and it truly, doing this work has truly like changed how I approach life. And it's interesting to reflect back and see how I used to be and how I am now. It's just I didn't in early sobriety, I didn't necessarily quite grasp what he was talking about. And now, years later, I do, like, I starting to understand that. And so a lot of times you hear people with 10 plus, they'll talk about sobriety totally differently. I have a friend, I think he's got 30, I don't know, 34. He got sober when he's 18 and he's my age. So
Wow.
I think he's like 32 years or 34 years. And it's so interesting to talk to him about what he works on in his sobriety, as opposed to someone that's new or someone that's, you know, only 6 years old, so to speak, if you want
Right,
to look at it as ages. Time is relative. Time does mean something in sobriety, but it's all relative based on how much work you do. I
right.
know people
Mm-hmm.
that have been sober 10 plus years and they're miserable. Like, you don't
Right.
have to be like that. And all
Well,
that
and
does to me is like, I don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
and we were told, Mike, that we should. I mean, we obviously should always be evolving, right? I mean, changing and all that stuff, right?
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
continuous
Yeah.
learning.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the promises, man, it's a new freedom and a new happiness. And sometimes we don't know what the hell to do with this new thing because we've never had it before. I used to be happy. I had happiness in my life. No, this is new, man. I used to be free.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is new. Yes. And it's beautiful, man. And yeah, sometimes we're not used to it, but like you said, Gary, we're getting used to it.
Yeah, it's
Right.
very nice.
Yeah, and there was, I mean, shit for years. I mean, I wouldn't even go any place, that I wouldn't walk into a bar under any circumstance, and I wouldn't just go to a bar now. But if I was in Cleveland and there was a band, and Mike's like, "Hey, you want to go see this band with me?" and it's at this bar, I'd be, "Fuck yeah, let's roll, man," But 7 years ago, 8 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, I wouldn't have done it And Mike and I went to see Lita Ford. Very weird circumstance for me at that time. That was the first concert I had been to, where there was just a lot of drinking around. But then I went to a Foo Fighters concert. Then Mike and I went to a Foo Fighters concert. And, I've been to these different things like that. I've been to weddings and circumstances. I'm like, this isn't that bad. Fuck, I went to a blues bar, by myself when I was in Memphis. I never would have done that probably even 4 or 5 years ago. But again, I was there for the event. I went to eat some fucking great food, and then I went back when the band started playing, sat there for 40 minutes, was out of there in 45 because I'm like, you don't fucking belong here anymore. And I left. But I was in fucking Memphis on Beale Street, surrounded by people and drinking in bars and stuff like that. But that's not why I was there. I was there to enjoy Beale Street, yes, but in a whole different light, in a whole different way of looking at it. For the experience of being in Memphis, in walking down that famous street, and then seeing this
Mhm.
this random blues band, but this dude is fucking awesome, and it was just. You get to experience things. I don't know, like Mike, that fucking moon, right? I mean, just
Exactly.
I
It's
mean,
a different experience when you're sober.
Oh God, and it's different for me now than it was again 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Sometimes I don't have the same tolerance for things these days that I did 10 years ago, and it's not a bad thing. I'm like, man, I don't want to fucking do that anymore. And I'm not going to. I would agree to do something where today I have no issue whatsoever saying no. That goes back
Mhm.
to what you were talking about, the people pleasing and always saying yes. No is a complete sentence. I know it's a meme and all these different things, and people, use it kind of tongue in cheek, but it's true. You can
Very
say
true.
no, and there doesn't have to be an explanation. I don't want to go. Why not? I just don't. I'd be done with it.
Hmm?
You want a drink? No, I'm good. You don't want a drink? Nope, all good. Or yeah, I've got a soda. I've got a water, whatever it is. People freak out about being asked, about what they're going to drink. If you're nervous about it, don't be there, because sooner or later somebody's going to ask if you're around fucking strangers because they don't get it and they shouldn't have to get it. But again, that's all about like what you were just saying, Gary. Be comfortable in your own skin, be there for the event. If you're uncomfortable, then maybe you shouldn't be there or show up because you have to be there for a minute and then get the fuck out of there. That's it.
True.
Yeah.
Actually, I hadn't uh, I hadn't been to a bar. I was at a bar 2 months ago. I wasn't at a bar, but I helped with a fundraiser for Winter Awakening, and it happened to be in the parking lot of a bar that I actually used to DJ in. I used to work there. It's called different. It's got a different name, and they changed the inside. But they opened it at 10 a.m. for us to have that and to have bathroom facilities. Of course, they were drinking mimosas, but whatever. But I had to go in and use the restroom, and oh my god, it stunk so
Oh, sure.
bad. It smelled like old vodka and stale beer. And I have dog nose now that I've been sober. I don't know where I got it from. My sense of smell in sobriety is insane. And I was like, how the hell did I ever like being in this place?
Right.
It really was awful. I was like, ugh, couldn't wait to get
Yeah.
back outside.
Yeah, and it's the and same thing. Mike and I were talking about just a week or so ago about whatever it is, sitting in a dark, dingy bar on a bright sunny day. But I mean, Mike made
Mm-hmm.
the best point. He's like, that's why he went in there, fucking dark and dingy, and he went in there to get drunk.
Yep.
Sure did.
Yeah,
And every Friday and Saturday, I was in that bar.
right, right.
Couldn't wait to get there.
And
So,
once again, like we always say, and we've said already tonight, I mean the freedom and just and Mike said that to me years ago when I first moved back to Wisconsin. And again, I noticed all these liquor stores and blah 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 and the whole story that I told before. But I texted him and then he just texts back and he says, enjoy the freedom, the fact that I didn't have to stop and worry about where I was going or anything like that. And that was shit. That was 10 years ago, Mike, probably.
Right.
I think because it was right after I moved back to Wisconsin, and it might have been, if not 10 years, it was pretty goddamn close to 10 years ago. And you're just like, yeah, enjoy the freedom. I'm like,
yep.
fucking wow, man, that's great. But yeah, these are usually these are my light bulb moments when it comes to that. Usually it's that fuck knuckle over there that enlightens me. Not always, but there's been several of them where I'm just like, yeah, man, enjoy the freedom. But
Back when you
so what?
pick the hotel room when you're traveling for work to make sure it's close to a liquor store or grocery store so you could have enough.
Well, so here's the thing though. When I used to
Miss that at
travel,
all.
and to the point is that now I can't ever get it out of my head. I know where I've been here for almost 2 weeks now, and I know where all the liquor stores are, the ones I've driven by, because I can't help but not see them. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
trying to look for them, but I know where they're at because I'm like, you're just driving along and it's like your head is pulled like a magnet. Like, oh, there's a liquor store. There's another one. Oh, there's a liquor store. That looks like a nice one over there. I mean, I have no desire or anything to drink, but I can't. I would do that all the time. Anytime I went into a new town, I figure out where the hotel was, and then drive around as far as I had to figure out. Usually it wasn't far. Fucking Wisconsin, 9 times out of 10, there was bars and liquor stores everywhere. So yeah, I'd always
Yeah,
stop
in
there first,
Wisconsin,
and
the restaurants are the bars,
yeah.
if I
Well,
remember
there's
correctly.
well the funny part is, and this is a fact. I mean, it's like that in Cleveland too. In Lakewood down what's the why can't I think of what's that main drag in Lakewood, Mike? Where
What,
like
Detroit?
yeah, where that's where Melt is, right? On Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going down there, and even a couple roads up, Madison's another one, that when you go down these roads, I mean, shit, you can't walk more than a block and a half without running into a bar on both sides. There's just
Mm-hmm.
these rows and strings and streets of bars. So Lakewood's the same way, but yeah, in Wisconsin, you get small towns. There'll be a church, a gas station, 3 bars, and at least 2 places you can buy alcohol.
Yep.
And every fucking small town that you could blow through in 2 blocks, and it's got all that, but it's yeah, yep. You don't have to look
Well, I
very
got
far.
you all
That's for
beat
goddamn
because
sure.
when I first started driving truck, right, I was still drinking and I was over the road. So I had every truck stop in the goddamn country that sold beer, and I knew where there. I like literally every state, I knew where I could get a truck into within a few blocks of a liquor store because I had to get a bottle of whiskey too. So, and my favorite was Little Rock, Arkansas, because there was a truck stop there, a big one, and right on the edge of the parking lot there was a full liquor store. It was beautiful.
Well, there's been a
A hard
couple
one
of
would have been
things,
Pennsylvania.
but
Go
like
ahead,
Oh,
Bill.
Pennsylvania sucked, man.
Yes,
It
and you
was
got
the
to buy a
fucking
case of
worst.
beer in Pennsylvania. You can't buy six
Right.
pack.
And the truck stops don't sell it, and
Mm-mm.
it's all Pennsylvania was horrible. I had to
Yes.
make sure that I was stocked up before I went into Pennsylvania. Shit, man. I was down south one time. I don't remember what it was, but I was in a dry county and I got in the truck and drove an hour and a half into the next
Did you
county so
really?
I could get what I needed and drove
Yeah.
back into the dry county. Oh yeah. Yeah. Freedom, my ass.
Right, right. Yeah, but there's been a couple of times since I've been traveling and stuff like that I've you've mentioned to me, Mike. You're like, oh yeah, there's a truck stop there. There's this and that. And I'm saying, yeah, I'm sure there is. Because you pointed that out before. The truck stops. I mean, why not? I mean, you would know. You had to know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's
I had to
that's
know.
that's what we do. It's what we need. So yeah, you absolutely 100% have to know. So Gary, what else? I mean, we're heading up on that hour and a half time, but what else? Any other I don't know, things you want to bring up or talk about or wrap up with, or where you at?
Not really. I do want to say thank you for having me back. I do I
Of
do
course.
religiously listen to you guys every week. And like I said, you're a big part of my sobriety. I appreciate that you do this. I know you've had some technical issues. I almost did some research for you to see why Riverside's the way it
We'll
is,
take
but
all
it
the
sounded
help we
like
can
you
get.
guys, yeah, it sounded like you guys were on top of it. So
Well, and
sometimes I don't meddle.
it's getting to the point, and Mike and I even talked about it, because now I mean we've got all the switches where they should be. My internet's fine, his internet's fine. I know you're not even part of the. I'll say part of the problem, because I mean it happens whether we've had this is the first time we've had a guest on since we had some of those issues. But I mean
It's been a while.
I'm serious, man. We're to the point where both of us are about ready to just say fuck you to Riverside, because it's ridiculous. There's nothing. I've been in how many different places now with so we've all these different things, and Mike, we were both there. His internet's fine. I worked the entire week when I was at his house, on the phone, Zoom calls, other sort of thing, which draw a lot of
A lot
internet
more than
usage.
this. Yes.
Oh God, yeah.
Right.
So
I work in the UC space, so I understand.
yeah, so you know what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
I know
Zoom,
exactly what you're talking about.
Zoom phone. Our entire company is run on Zoom and Salesforce.
Yep.
Two programs like that, or apps or websites that pull a lot of juice, I guess, if you want to put it that way.
Zoom's
Fucking no
pretty
issues. And then
optimized though, but yes.
yeah, but still, I mean, we almost couldn't record that night. We had so many fucking problems with with the recording that night at Mike's house. So I don't know. It's one of those things where it's getting to the point where we might just, if nothing else, try something else, and then worry about. We already paid for Riverside for the year, but worst case, if they keep our fucking money, then fuck them. We'll try somebody else. So, right, Mike?
Yes.
And I was gonna buy you guys some coffees, and then you came on and said, "I don't want your money." I was like, "Okay."
No, don't. No, really.
I didn't. I didn't.
Yeah, and
But-
that's the other thing too, and I mean that wholeheartedly. And if somebody donated money to us, I mean seriously, we can donate it back or do whatever it is. But I get I can't believe how fucking angry it made me when these podcasts are telling people, that they need their money. I'm like, you fucking liars, because again, I mean that's all that it is. They're fucking liars. I openly said exactly what we spend, which is, what did I figure, Mike? $600-700 a year total.
Yeah, something like that.
And that's only because we pay. I mean, 220 of it is this shit that we got to deal with Riverside. And the rest of it is just, I mean, things to make my life easier, basically. For cutting tools and things like that. But I mean, that the fucking website costs more money than the goddamn podcast. The website's a fucking drain. This
yeah,
isn't.
website's expensive.
Well, and I mean the our merchandise website, not the Sober Not Mature one, but that's the other.
Oh, okay.
Between Riverside and the website to have it is more than half of what we spend in a year. Because that's probably 400 and some bucks. But those are two things.
Well, I look
don't
at it
have
as
to have
seventh
them.
tradition. Like I'm listening and
Exactly.
going to your meeting, so to speak, if you want to call it that, in my air quotes that you can't see.
Right.
And it's just seventh tradition. So I was literally like the week that I thought about buying you guys a coffee, you came on and said, "Please don't send us any money." I was like, "Okay, I won't."
Yeah, it is.
Don't give us money and don't listen.
Right. No, you can, and that's honestly, that's what we
Well,
ask
you're
people
not
to
going
do.
to
Is
stop me from listening, Mike.
yeah, we ask people.
Good.
All that we ask people to do is share us, then help us grow, and then we can take money from people, not that can afford it, but from advertisers and stuff like that, because again, it's there's no reason we don't need the money. Again, if somebody gave us money, we're not going to throw it away. We could donate it, but we're not going to beg for fucking money like everyone else. Fuck, I mean, it's still, every time I think about it, it makes me mad, but but
And
yeah, I get it, Gary.
by the way, on the Apple version of your podcast, it puts a commercial in wherever someone takes a breath about 16 minutes in.
Right.
And it doesn't seem to be like it's somewhere between like the 16-minute mark and the 20 something. I've been trying to keep an eye on it, but it's like in the halfway through a sentence, one of you will take like a breath, and that's where it puts the
Right.
Well, and it makes me laugh. I just laugh. You can fast forward through it, but it just makes me laugh. I'm like, it's not even logical.
Well, in what it is that, and again, this is to make my life easier. You can place ads manually in Spotify for podcasters, which is who we do the ads through. That's our host. Riverside is just where we record.
Yeah.
But then they have this AI thing now where they'll place ads, wherever AI looks for spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll look for basically sometimes, and it happened last week when I was listening to it too, Mike will be like, "Oh, and that's how I felt." And then an ad comes in and I'm like, "Well, but yeah." And then, yeah, it does. I've heard it on other podcasts, so everyone's using it. So the cool part is that that's a one thing. Because when I first started hearing, I'm like, that's kind of fucking weird, but it just is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah,
if you watch YouTube TV, it does the same thing. It randomly just plays an ad.
Yeah, it's all AI shit. It's one at the beginning, one at the end. They'll try to put one in the middle, and then they'll split one. You're probably right, about 15 minutes in, because the way we run in an hour and a half, it's perfectly split. Probably at 20 minutes in, or 15 or 16 or whatever.
It usually does, yes.
All right, so enough technology talk, right, Mike? I know you're probably ready to get the hell out of here. So, what do you think, Mike? Back to you.
Oh, what? You talking to me?
Yeah,
That's
I
okay.
dozed
Bill's
off
in the
there for a minute.
bathroom.
I knew he was because we were having tech talk, so he was he fell asleep.
Zoning
So,
out. Zoning out.
yep,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
your,
I don't care.
right. It's your turn, Mike.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. Thank you very much, Gary, for coming on and hanging out with us this week. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you listening to us, too. And we appreciate all the rest of you fuckers listening to us, too. You know, send us an email. Maybe you can come on here and be cool like Gary. All right, kids. Guess what? It's time. It's time. It's time for you to fuck off. Then keep fucking off. Keep fucking off till you get to a gate with a sign on it saying you cannot fuck off past here. Climb over that gate, dream the impossible dream, and keep fucking off forever.
And yes, if you want to be cool like Gary, and literally, it did it. You brought this up in your episode when you went before. You just emailed me, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, believe me though, we just so everyone knows, we're not going to say fucking yes to everyone. If you're a
Yes.
fucking weirdo, and anyone, I know we tried to ask a lot of questions of Gary too. You know, we want to have somebody we're going to have something in common with, and Gary turned out obviously. We appreciate you in all different kinds of ways, but yeah, if anyone wants to, I don't know, give us a shot, see if we'll say yes or no. But I know seriously, Gary, all the thanks is on this side of the table. We appreciate you
over
coming
here.
on. And it was cool just having somebody come out. We haven't done that yet, to have somebody come on and just kind of, shoot the shit and be, I don't know, you were like a third host for a week, and it was cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I enjoy it.
It was fun. All right, Mike, I love you, brother, and I know we'll talk
Love you
soon.
too.
And Gary, seriously, thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
everyone else, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. And now it is time for you to fuck off. Then keep fucking off. Keep fucking off until you get to a gate with a sign on it saying you cannot fuck off past here. Climb over that gate, dream the impossible dream, and keep fucking off forever.